So last night in the gym, I decided to do something really, really light because it's all I could tolerate yesterday. My heart rate was really, really bad, and so was my oxygen. So I just focused on the treadmill, diaphragmatic breathing, and stretching. And so while being on the treadmill, I was walking at 2.5 miles an hour for 15 minutes, and that's all I could really tolerate. And then I decided to go ahead and go stretch for about 20 minutes and just really focus on getting my body kind of back to where I need to be and just focusing on diaphragmatic breathing so that way I was getting adequate oxygen. So that way I wasn't in constant glycolysis. I was able to actually have oxidative phosphorylation occur. And so I ended up having quite a high heart rate just walking on the treadmill. And I was thinking about how baroreceptors are responsible for a lot of heart rate, but also how motor neurons end up connecting to all of my muscles and making sure that they can contract and adequately contract using EPSP and IPSP muscle contractions in order for it to be happening, and how during your gait things are moving and contracting all at different times and how that all really works together. And then during stretching, how muscle spindles and Golgi tendons end up working in order to really change the muscle length for a short period of time and adjust to the stress that you're putting underneath of it or putting onto the muscle, and how that ends up stretching actinomycin and how it'd be harder to have a muscle contraction during that time. And then during my diaphragmatic breathing, thinking about how all the oxygen is trying to get into my cells, into the mitochondria, so that way I can be in oxidative phosphorylation and then it can create ATP. But with my heart rate being so incredibly high, adequate blood perfusion is an issue. And so with my oxygen being low, it was really hard for my body to adapt to that change and to adapt to being oxidative phosphorylation because of the third pump in the electron transport chain not being able to get adequate oxygen in order to pull those extra electrons out and make the ATP. So that's what I decided to do in the gym last night. So last night in the gym, I wasn't feeling too good, so I just decided to do 30 minutes of walking on the treadmill. No incline, no nothing, just walking, just trying to get my body moving and get my blood pumping a little bit because that's all I could really tolerate. And then I decided that I was gonna go stretch and just do a full body stretching just so that way I could get my muscles moving and at least get them moving just to increase blood flow and make sure that my body was getting good blood. And then I decided that I was going to do a little bit of core, so I did dead bugs, Russian twist, and plank, all very, very light, nothing crazy, intense, just making sure that my VO2, my VO2 didn't really go up. So my RER was pretty low, just so that way I wasn't making my heart pump even more than it was having to, but just focusing on my breathing and making sure that I was getting adequate breaths. So that way I was able to actually use the oxygen, so that way I wouldn't be out of breath and I was actually able to do oxidative phosphorylation. And so just making sure that I was actually able to adequately get breath, so that way I had adequate perfusion to all of my muscles and my brain, and making sure that my heart didn't have to work too hard was super, super important in the gym last night. I haven't been feeling too good, so I've been just trying to make sure that I'm getting my body up and moving and able to increase my immune system, but making sure that I'm not overdoing it so that way I'm not passing out from loss of oxygen or low blood pressure or super, super high heart rate, which can happen, and that can be part of baroreceptors in your heart, because the baroreceptors don't know that you aren't working out really, really hard and just trying to get as much cardiac output because cardiac output is decreased. So it's trying to pump all the blood so that way your cardiac output increases and your stroke volume increases.